Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SavvyCast. This is Jamie, and I'm grateful to all of you who are joining today, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast platform. I am thrilled today to have a guest who I know is going to share information that will be super helpful to many of us who have concerns about the direction that masculinity seems to be taking in our current culture. Matt Beaudreau is the founder of Acton Academy Placer Schools and also the co-founder of Apogee Strong, which we'll be diving into today. Apogee Strong, which he co-founded with Tim Kennedy, is a mentorship program designed for young men from 12 to 22 to take on challenges presented by men who have come before them in order to lead. It's a rite of passage through mentorship, action, and self-discovery so that young men can become true leaders. This has blossomed into a mission to bring back classic masculinity in the home. This has also fueled the launch of the Apogee Strong Dads program in 2023. So we're going to dive in, learn more about Apogee Strong, learn ways that we can utilize this wonderful resource as well as support their mission. So I'm thrilled today to welcome to the SavvyCast, Matt Beaudreau. Matt, welcome to the SavvyCast. I'm so grateful to you for being here today.
The honor is absolutely mine, my friend. I appreciate the invite.
Okay, Matt, there is so much that I want to address, but first we're going to touch upon the topic I ask every guest because I am a food and lifestyle blogger. Food is very important. What would you choose as your last meal?
I love that question. My last meal would be the same as most meals. Honestly, I'm a steak guy. I just am. I'm a ribeye guy, and I wouldn't change it just because it was the last meal. My family, this is almost, I apologize if anybody doesn't like meat eating out there, but we'll buy a whole cow from our local rancher. It's one of the only animals we don't have here yet on our farm. And we will go through, as a family, we'll go through a whole cow in 6 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A lot of beef.
That is amazing. I used to show steers in 4-H. That's a funny.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool.
So we would eat what we raised, but
Yes,
so you do live on a farm. Tell us about your family.
Yes, ma'am. So a beautiful wife. We've been married for coming up on 15 years, been together for 18. And we have 3 young heroes. My girls are 12 and 10. My little man is 7. We're all born and raised California, but as of a year ago, we purchased an operational farm in the mountains of North Carolina. So that's where we are now. And along with all the other things we get to do, we're running a full-on farm, providing food to local restaurants, and learning a lot in the process too. So life was good.
That is amazing. Now, are you near the Asheville area where?
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Yeah, about 30 minutes outside of Asheville.
Oh, that is some of the most beautiful country on earth. So you've got a farm, and I'm sure your kids just enjoy working and living and growing up in that type of environment.
That was the biggest thing for us, right? We had built all the businesses and, been in California, but they didn't need me there. And the opportunity to take this on and to give my young heroes extra responsibility in that regard and give them that extra element of a childhood that we all talk about and dream about, but we worked to the point where we were able to do that. And so I couldn't pass it up. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and they love it. I mean, I say we run the family farm. Here's the deal. My wife runs the farm and my kids are the sidekicks. I'm just there to, pick things up or move things or fix things. They're running the show, and it's a beautiful thing.
Well, we just purchased a farm during the COVID lockdown, and we absolutely love it. And we're seeing, as we see what's happening in our culture today, the value of having land, place to go, place to grow, cannot be underestimated. But okay, Matt, let's just start. There are several things I want to address before we get to Apogee Strong, but what does Apogee mean? Am I pronouncing it right? And what?
That's so funny. Yeah. So Apogee.
Apogee. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. My southern.
it's not a normal word anyway. So you're good. We were just on Fox a couple of weeks ago, and I don't even remember the accent that came out on that too, but it's not a normal word. So I don't fault anybody. So yeah.
Well, it's my fault because I will say I've seen you all on multiple television appearances, listened on podcasts.
Oh, it's all
I
good.
should know how to pronounce it. So forgive me,
It's,
but
no,
tell us
it's all good.
what that means and how it came to be your passion
That's
and
so
what
funny.
you're
Yeah,
building.
no worries at all. So apogee means coming to the pinnacle of something, right? Approaching the pinnacle. So because you're reaching the top of a mountain, you're coming up to the apogee of the mountain, right? And so that's what it means. We talk about this concept of time is either invested or it is wasted. You are either working your way up the mountain or you are inherently falling backwards and slipping backwards, right? There is no net neutral. So spending that time wisely and with impact and with intentionality. And on that way up your mountain, you have got one hand up, and the people who have come before you, the mentors who have come before you, the good people who have come before you, they are helping to pull you up that mountain. And then simultaneously, you have got a hand back and you are impacting the next generation, right? And you are bringing them up along with you. And so it really represents the concept of what this program is all about. And you asked, how did we get here? Because what Apogee Strong is a mentorship program, right? And it started as a mentorship program specifically for young men. We now have launched the program for fathers and for dads to show them how to be good men and leaders in the home. The next question that we all always get is, well, what about something for the ladies? Yes, we are working on the ladies part 2, but we are partnering with good women in order to do that. Tim and I know we are not the men to lead the ladies. We need to partner with our friends like Tulsi Gabbard and some of these other phenomenally strong women to move that forward, right? So but all of that was born out of an understanding of seeing how really young men were being cut off at the knees so early on in our culture at this point, and wanting to provide a solution. And we say that from the concept of I've been in the school game for a long time. Was a public school teacher, was a private school teacher, was a public school administrator, a private school administrator. I was at Stanford for a long time. And I'm seeing the ways that our young people are just being completely handicapped more than anything else. And so we wanted to help do our part to right that wrong. And that's where it was born.
So you have seen this in every school setting.
Yes,
what are some of the most common ways you are seeing young men be cut off at the knees, be wounded and handicapped?
So I'm going to be extraordinarily aggressive in this. And I want people to hear my heart in this though, too. So, right. When I start talking about schooling, when I start talking about parenting, because these are two of the biggest drivers for this, please understand, I am never attacking good humans. If you are a good parent doing the best you can, what you've always been taught, what you've been told, you are putting it out there. I am on your team. I love you. I support you in this. If you are a good teacher, if you are a good administrator, you are there for the right reasons. You love the kids. You're there for an altruistic purpose. I support you in this. What I do not support are the systems that I know, not believe, there's a difference, that I know to be the enemy of development, of people. Schooling, as you and I grew up going to it, was actually intentionally developed to be the enemy of human growth. And it's been a long tail game, and it's only getting worse. So some of the biggest things that we're facing in this country are young men being sent to school into a system that is meant to make you a slave. It is meant to make you emotionally dependent. It is meant to make you blindly obedient. And you are sent there, and at 5 years old, you are forced into a system that is against development. At that point, you should be playing, you should be running around, you should be engaging with the world around you, but you are told to sit there and be quiet. And if you don't do it,
Get ADD medication.
We're going to medicate you, right? Because it must be because you have a methamphetamine deficiency, right? I'm sure that's what the problem is. So we're starting off very, very early. We're forcing academia too early, which makes the young people believe that learning and school are the same thing. They are not. And so they start to go, oh, gosh, I don't like this. I don't want to do this anymore. So they start to see learning as something that they don't want to do forever. We're stunting their ability to get outside and work with people that are outside of the same age as them. in the real world, right, it's a full-on attack. So schooling itself is a big part of it. And then unfortunately, we're bringing them home into homes that are being led by a lot of times men who are now perpetual boys, because we also have all of these distractions for our men and our young men, right? We have a DNA inside of us, a God-given DNA where men want to go conquer, and we want to go, have a purpose and have a mission and serve other people and slay the dragon and rescue the princess. Well, we're checking off all those boxes virtually now. It's, hey, here's a screen, here's some video games for your adventure, which leads into here's your screen where you can find women for free easily too, right? And we're just completely distracting. So it is a big, giant freaking mission that we are on.
Okay. We've raised 3 daughters. We would have loved to have had sons, but that was not God's plan for us. But we're empty nesters. But my daughters are going to be having children, and we lead young married couples who they're very, very, very concerned about where are we going to send our kids to school. Mm-hmm. We see horrific things being taught. Sure. What alternatives are there? And does that lead us to discuss your placer schools?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And so what I want parents to realize, anybody who's listening to this is, and again, this is not a knock on people. I want to talk about the system in general. So yes, you've got these agendas that are playing out, right? You got the cultural agendas. You're seeing these being pushed into public schools, but as you mentioned, a lot of times they do rear their head into private institutions as well. So that's one element of the enemy that we are facing here. But the sneakier agenda is the system of school itself. The whole concept of this narrow focus of academia, the whole concept of a grade and a grade level and the testing that's associated with that, and not integrating with people that are different ages. The entire system is an Industrial Revolution relic that was brought here, in Rockefeller's own words, to create a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. Oh. So the entire system that we all grew up going to was actually meant to cut us off at the knees, on purpose, intentional. So that's part of the sneakier, big part of the agenda. So when we start taking a look at alternatives, I implore parents to understand that alternatives not only are here, and I'll talk about what some of those are, but I can promise you, if you are a good human on a mission, doing right by your children, loving them the way that God intends you to love them, I promise you the alternatives you find will be a better match. Mm-hmm. So I started creating schools of my own. I connected to the Acton Academy network at large, ACTON, Acton Academy. And there are about 300 Acton Academies now globally. So are there places you can send your hero? Yes, Acton Academy is a great opportunity. Some Montessori's can be great for younger ages. There are also these other, Prenda, and there's a whole slew of alternative programs that are popping up. But home education should not be taken off the table for people either. And people go, oh, that's weird. That's weird. That's where the weird kids. You were trained to think that as well, because hey, guess what? Before this 150-year experiment of schooling, that's all there was. That's what you did. It's how humans existed forever. Mm-hmm. And we were far more educated. We weren't as schooled, but we were far more educated back then. So yes, you can do it. Yes, you are meant to be able to do it. And I don't want people to ever discount that. We're over 3 million home educated young heroes now in this country. It was the first time we went over that mark since the beginning of mandatory schooling. But
and could you speak to those who might think I'm unqualified, my child would fall short, I don't have the resources? Can you just quickly paint a picture of the ways that it's possible for you to homeschool or home educate without the whole entire burden falling in your lap to teach? Like I literally could not teach probably past 6th grade math.
But do you need to?
Well, that's a great question.
That's the problem. Wow. Is that we try to recreate school at home. You are leaving a cult and then going, ooh, but I have to do all the cult stuff here, don't I? Right? There's this saying, it says, birds born in a cage think flying is an illness. You were born into a cage of schooling, and you are trained to think that anything outside of that is illness, when the reality is it's how you are meant to live. It's how you are designed. Schooling, including the thinking that there are subjects or grade levels, none of those are real or needed. I always tell people I was a straight A student, not because I was super brilliant, but because I understood the game of school very early on. I understood how to get the A, right? So I got straight A's all through high school, all through college, and then came out and went, who am I? Don't know anything about myself. Don't know anything. I have nothing to offer the world. I don't have any money. I don't have any, right? So I got all my straight A's though. Okay, well, now I'm at this point where I have multiple businesses. I have businesses that have done 7 and 8 figures. I get paid to go speak to Fortune 500s. They'll pay me 40 grand to stand on stage for an hour because I provide enough value to these organizations. And I went back and took a standardized test not long ago. And that's exactly what my quote unquote grade level was 6th grade math, right? Well, I understand P&Ls. I understand how to run a business. I understand how to get out of the tax game and how a cash flow for my entire family works with multiple businesses. But I can't go past trig right now or algebra. Why? Because I don't use it. So parents need to stop bringing school into the home. It's not the same thing. And isn't it interesting that we feel like we're unqualified? We go through a system that then leaves us feeling unqualified to educate our own children. So we feel like the best thing we can do is put them back in the same system that we went through that left us feeling unqualified. It makes no sense, but it's the cult mentality we've been trained.
Wow. Okay. That's
You didn't know we were going here, huh?
No. I think I'm getting it because yes, like you, now I don't have your Vita at all, but like I could teach any young woman how to cook, fully provide meals, lockdown or no. I mean, but I have to get out my calculator to quadruple the recipe. But yes, there are ways to practically survive and thrive without having to meet all those arbitrary standards that schools have set up.
Bingo. So the question becomes, what should education be for, right? And when you ask that question, when you really ask that question, you realize that the answer is wildly personal. It's wildly personal. So if you've got somebody that's listening to this right now and they don't live on a farm, do they necessarily need to be educated on, I'm looking out here at my farm, on electric fencing? They probably don't, because it's not something that they're dealing with. They're not dealing with it at work. They're not dealing with it at home. I live on a farm that has 20 acres of it fenced electrically, right? We've had trees fall down, take out that fence. Guess what I had to learn? I had to learn about electric fence. I had to learn how to shut that off. I had to learn how to reattach it. I have to understand how that works. My kids now also become educated on this because I bring them along with me, right? Education is wildly personal. And what I've just mentioned right there too, kind of inherently with what I said, was the best way to educate your own young heroes is to continuously improve your own education and just bring them along with you. It's not complicated. So everybody can do it. The reason most people don't feel like they can educate their kids is because they're not worried about ever educating themselves. They feel like they know what they know and they don't want to push themselves forward and move forward, probably because they were schooled into that mindset.
Just from a very practical standpoint, we have young couples with young children, but they both maybe work outside the home.
Sure.
What would be the best case scenario for them if they think it's for some reason, I can't quit, I've got to work? What is the best place to send my child if it's not the public or the private school? I mean, I'm intrigued by these Acton Academy placement schools, and I feel like there are many, many people who have the ability, the means to possibly bring those to their city, state. Can you give us a little insight into that?
Yeah, people can absolutely bring these into their city or state. It is a hard job. All of this is hard, by the way. Again, part of the training is, yes, we have to have mom and dad out of the house because everybody has to work and we have to have somewhere to send our kids, right? So we got to, first of all, challenge your have tos. We've had our first child and I went from a 6-figure job to $31,000 a year. And my wife stopped working with our first child so that we could change our have tos, because our have to was we needed our kids home. So
Wow.
be willing to change your have tos for what you need to. So that's first. But yes, you can bring these to your hometown. There is an application process. If you go to actonacademy.org, and I highly recommend people go down, if they're interested in doing that, go down the Acton Academy rabbit hole, Google, YouTube, read the book, Courage to Grow, understand what you're doing, because Acton Academy is not just a school because we don't want a woke agenda. It is education, meaning it's a learner-led environment, meaning we're not focusing on subjects and grade levels and all the things that you've been trained school should be. So you got to get yourself out of the emotional attachment to the cult mentality of school first. But you have the ability to bring these in. With Apogee Strong, we're also allowing our men who are coming through the men's program to affiliate with us, and we're giving them tools to launch K through 12, more like home education co-ops as well, that operate in a very similar fashion, but maybe something that is a little more part-time, just to give flexibility for this. So yes, you can bring these to your hometown. Even if you are working full-time as a family, you can band together with other parents and develop homeschool co-ops where kids are taken care of by two parents are working, but these parents are off this day. Well, then they're the ones in charge that day, right? And the kids in the community can come and gather together. We help people to be able to coordinate in that way as well, so that they can still give their heroes an actual education, even if both parents are working out of the house.
Is, for lack of a better term, is there a curriculum or a basis for what needs to be taught? What needs
to be taught?
Yeah.
That's the question. What needs to be taught? That's the question we always ask people, is what needs to be taught? And what's interesting is most people have a really hard time answering that question, right? What do you actually need? What should the curriculum look like? Because we've been taught math, English, science. We just spout out school words, right? What if the curriculum is self-awareness, self-confidence, communication, the ability to learn when I need to learn, what I want to learn, the ability to unlearn something that is no longer relevant, the ability to stay physically healthy, the ability to have great relationships. What if those are the things we need to learn? Because I would argue that those are some of the meta skills that actually matter for being quote unquote successful, but it also matters for having good relationships, for being happy, for being at peace, for being able to actually do some things in the real world. So that's the curriculum. So then the question is, how does that get done? Well, that gets done in community, solving interesting problems, talking about heroic stories. Reading is a big part, but not reading like we've been taught, reading like diving into classics and then actually having great conversations around heroic stories and going, hey, what would you do if you were in that circumstance? Right? Education starts to look wildly different when you stop talking about subjects and you start talking about tackling real problems and doing real things in the world.
Well, I was on the website that had your reading list for your
for Apogee.
Yes. Wow. Most of those, if not all, were classics.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you have discussion after, and those are led by the older men teaching the younger men, correct?
Yeah. So the way with Apogee, the way we developed that mentorship program, we've got a very specific 12-month roadmap that these young men take on. And it's 12 months for a reason. We want real education. We want to build habits. And that's the biggest thing that we get pushback on from parents is, ooh, can we just make it shorter? No, we can't.
So Apogee is 12 months.
So Apogee was 12 months. And if you pour into the 12 months, then it's free in perpetuity.
Oh, wow.
For
Do
life.
A lot of them stay?
Anybody that goes through the 12 months, they absolutely stay. And by the way, they're starting to get, we've got a 17-year-old just got a 6-figure job offer because he stayed. We've got universities that are offering blanket scholarships for any of our young men that they're like 20 grand off the top tuition period if they come out of Apogee Strong. Because if they have the guts to stay for 12 months and not be distracted by things like school or distractions like the video games and the other, right, going down the status quo of all these things, then yeah, they come out completely transformed because they put in the work. Because they're getting projects and challenges every month that are actually educational, not school. It's not schooling. It's educational projects and challenges. They have these readings. They have a daily platform where they're all together. I'm posting stuff. Tim is posting stuff. They've got mentors posting things for them to take a look at. And then every single week, they are on a live call where they are interacting with the best of the best of the best, from movie stars and comedians and professional athletes and politicians and Navy SEALs and billionaire CEOs. The through line has to be, these are good men creating good impact in the world. And we have so many parents who still go, ooh, I would love to do that, but algebra. And I'm like,
that leads me to my next question. Because the parents, of course, have to be on board, I'm sure, because these are still kids living at home. How do you have kids who are in traditional public school, and how does that work for them?
We do. So they catch the recordings of the calls, because a lot of the live calls they can't do. And to be quite honest, it is up to the parent to help hold that standard too. Again, we're talking about the cult. I use that word intentionally, the cult of schooling. When you can go, wait a second, my child has the ability to have conversations with these high-level individuals every single week to produce a digital portfolio of actual leadership work that is going to open the doors to more jobs or colleges or whatever than anything that they will ever do in school, guaranteed. But you can't wrap your mind around, but they have to be in school and that's more important. We're not going to win. So my job isn't to convince anybody. My job is to go, look, here's the best option. You're going to do what you're going to do. You're going to choose what you're going to choose. But the people that choose education, it's a difference maker for those young heroes.
Mm-hmm. Where do most of your students in Apogee Strong come from? How do they find out about you? What propels them to make that commitment?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The majority have come from following either myself or Tim on social media, really, because we haven't done a big, web push. Our website is, the tech side, we're finally redoing the website now and going to make it, updated and show all the cool things that we have going on, especially with all the stories of the young men that we have now. But really it's been through social media, and it's parents who are starting to wake up and go, wait a second, this world does look a little different than it did when I was growing up. My young men do need to be tackling things a little different, and they are capable. Because that's another thing we've been trained to believe. The word teenager didn't exist until 1944.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't exist.
Yeah.
Right. We've been trained to believe that they're not capable. My 12-year-old out there. So I always tell people, we had horses when we were in California because my daughters bought the horses when they were 9 and 7. They bought it, not because they're trust fund babies, because they saved up with the businesses they were running at 9 and 7 to buy horses. My daughter is 12 right now and still has a business that's around horses. She goes, she'll leave for her entire weekends and she'll be gone running these things. We think about kids as these completely incapable individuals. It's because we've been trained now to just keep the bar really, really low, which, by the way, has led to a bunch of perpetual children that are now leading households as well. Wildly capable.
Okay. Well, you're in Apogee Strong, of course, some of the ones who take it probably are blessed with parents like obviously you and your wife, and maybe some of us who are more fortunate. The ones who possibly are in impoverished homes, these young men who are latchkey kids who need this.
Yeah.
Do you ever are they able to avail themselves of this? And if so, how are they sponsored by people who want to give toward that? Shed some light on that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I want to shed light first on the word fortunate too, because I get the must be nice that you guys live on a farm and that you had schools for your kids and that your kids have business. It must be nice that you guys have it. It is nice. It is. You know what? It is. But you know what wasn't nice? I was homeless for a while. I did have to live out of a car. I got groceries up to there and up to the checkout stand and had them go, well, you've got, 15 cents in your account and you got to go put everything back. So I didn't grow up in a wealthy family. I worked my tail off to make sure that this was the reality for my family. So I say, yeah, it is nice but I'm fortunate because I pushed really, really hard and because I served as many people as I could in the process, right? So I want to make sure we start there because it speaks to the character of who we want, not the financial circumstances of what we want, right? I'm not looking to serve because, by the way, I know a whole lot of very, very wealthy people at this point. I've got a lot of very wealthy people in my Rolodex and in my cell phone. But if their character sucks, I got nothing to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it doesn't, like, it's the character part that matters the most. So if we find that we have got a family who has all the character in the world, the parents they've got character, they care, there's morals, there's values, they care, but they just don't have the financial means. And the young man, again, same thing, character driven, like I am ready to go and put forth the effort. There's just not the financial means. That's part of where the Apogee Strong Foundation comes in. So that's our 501c3. People can donate to the Apogee Strong Foundation. It allows us to scholarship young men for this program. It allows us to scholarship young men to attend Acton Academies if that's where they want to go. It allows us to scholarship young men to live events. We're getting a headquarters out here in the mountains of North Carolina that is specifically for live events where we will fly these young men in, we will fly the mentors in, and they will actually get to spend a few days with the mentors. We will give them not just a great experience, but a very specific roadmap to then take back with them where they can go implement that, because maybe they do, mom still wants them in school. And so they're not able to attend things. So like, a whole year of attending these calls, I can't really do it. Okay, good. Come on in. We're going to download that, over the course of 3 days and then send you back with that. The Apogee Strong Foundation exists for those very people.
Okay. So, and I'll put links to all of the ways to give, to dive more into all of this. What about mentors? There are so many possibly retired military, older, wiser people who would love to pour into these young men. Can anyone talk to you about becoming a mentor in their sphere?
I very much appreciate that question. And there are so many good men. The problem that we have run into is people hear interviews and they go, hey, I'm ready to be a mentor. But then we end up having to try to figure out a way to do a deep dive, because we have had less than savory people who have said, I want to be a mentor. Right. And so the process of us filtering and figuring out who these people are makes it really, really tough. So we're trying to tackle that in one of two ways. One, thankfully, Tim and I have a really ridiculous network between the two of us, of men that we're able to reach out to and connect with. Right. Charlie, we mentioned Charlie Kirk. Charlie came on with our young men too, and has had,
oh, wow.
He had a couple of young men that have done their CEO interview project with him directly too. I mean, Charlie was great.
Now, what about Tucker? Because I thought I saw Tucker mention you all, maybe not, but
he may have. And we were supposed to do his show, I think, last time we were out in New York, and something got switched around. So we'll be doing his show again. Tim has gone on there a number of times. Tucker hasn't come on yet with our men or our young men, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's in the works. So we've got this.
Thinking about, like my husband, for instance, he mentors a handful of young men. He's an investment banker, and within the time he has, and that is something that's so rewarding to him. And I know there are many people like him.
100%.
How do you tap into that pool?
Exactly. So that's our next element when we launch this men's program this year, right? We've got the young men's that's been going for a couple of years now. In January, we launched the men's program. And so we have men from all over the country, but it's really all over the world. We have men in multiple countries, but obviously predominantly here in the US. These men, as they're going through the program, we're giving them the tools to mentor these young men effectively. They're going to bring their own flavor to it because they've got their own experiences, right? But we're also giving them the tools for how to help these young heroes build out these digital portfolios they need. Why are these so important? What are these experiences that we can give them? So a lot of these men that we are mentoring are going to go forward and affiliate boots on the ground in their hometown where they're going, hey, there's an Apogee affiliate here. We're going to run this and bring this to, schools, or bring this to churches, or wherever they want to do that, to get young men connected and get them on the path as well. So that's the next phase of this for us.
Okay. And you're still building out your site for this, that started in January, the dads.
The dads. Yeah. Right now it's a landing page. It's Apogee Strong.
Okay. Okay.
But we're putting everything
tuned.
under one umbrella, so that we have the men's program, the young men's program, and the foundation all under one site.
Okay. And the women's will be launching when?
January 1 of 2024.
Wow. Is it going to be a similar model?
Similar model, but we are diving in now. At the time of this recording, it's April 11th, right? So we've got about a month. We're about a month away. We're going to start doing our focus groups with a whole lot of really, really good women to see what does it need to look like. Here's our model now, as far as how this works, and this works very, very well for the men. What do we need to change? What is that? What needs to look the same? What needs to look different? I'm not going to pretend I have the answer, because I'm not a woman. I want a woman's perspective for that. So we're doing those focus groups in May, so we can launch in January.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us, maybe just give us an example of a student or a graduate of your program? I don't know if those are the terms you use, but maybe the impact or the change that you saw from when they started till the end of that year, just one of those wow stories.
Yeah, I mean, we've got, and this is always one of the tougher questions too, because I can give you a million of these, and I'll give you an example, I'll give you a few examples of these young men, but I always want to preface these examples with the reason there was a transformation was because they stayed consistent and showed up and did the work, right? Mm-hmm. There is this still cultural mentality of, oh, if I join the gym, I get in shape. No, if you join the gym, that's step one. Then you need to go. Then you need to listen to the trainers. Then you need to make sure the nutrition is dialed, right? Because then the transformation takes place. So it's the same thing. So, we got a young man who was fatherless, a fatherless home, and was pretty disenfranchised with anything and everything having to do with, schooling or education or learning. And, but he came in and was decided like, okay, I'm going to give this a go, because he had a heart for classic masculinity. He loves Teddy Roosevelt and Winston Churchill and some of this. So he saw, for him, that was like, okay, maybe this is some sort of connection, right? So not only did he pour in for the entire 12 months and attend everything, and then really pour into the other brothers and pour into the challenges and projects. He built out a digital portfolio. He took on a leadership role within our organization, mentoring. He's only 17, but he's mentoring other young men who are in that too, hosting weekly calls. And one of our mentors just really took a liking to him as well. And so now he's 17, but moving states. He's got a six-figure job at this point. Friggin' phenomenal, right? Because of who he is and the character and what he brought to the table. We've got young men in a similar situation. We have a few fatherless homes, situations, but a young man in Tennessee who was invited to, after the 12 months, come out to an event to help work. There was a kind of a classic masculinity father and son rite of passage event. He was invited to come out as an attendee, and had a military special operations guy say, man, I'm going to come in and act as kind of your surrogate father and your mentor in the long run, and went through that program with him. And now he's invited in perpetuity to go back out and help pour into the other teams that are there. So he is working with this organization that's perpetuating this strong father-son bond, even though he was coming out of this fatherless home, because he showed that character and that drive and that determination. We've got job offers, we have college full ride scholarships. We've got, all of the classic tales of what you want for these young men. But again, all of them put in the work to make that happen.
And I know I want to respect your time, and we will wind it up, but I'm looking at what's happening, or at least what's on the news, with these loud, illogical people who claim to be other genders, but they're getting funded by and sponsored by some of these woke corporations. Who would hire them? Would they hire them, or do they just want to give them the money? How do you get these woke companies to wake up and say, this is the pool from which we want to pull our future employees. This is where we want to give our money. I guess there's such a disconnect there. I don't, but maybe you know something that I don't.
No, there is a huge disconnect there, but I am very much of the mindset that we as a nation are giving too much attention to that versus just looking at the alternatives, right? You can fight against something, or you can spend the same amount of energy to fight for something. I choose to fight for. People ask, okay, well, how are we going to change what's going on in the schools? You aren't. The money, the power, the politics, the agenda, it has been around a lot longer than you have, and it's been in the works a lot longer, and there's a whole lot more money behind it. You're not going to change it. So what do? Well, then you fight for the alternatives, right? You don't try to fight against something that's not going to change. I always tell parents, you're not going to change McDonald's menu by protesting outside their headquarters. You're not going to change the theology of the Vatican by going out there and let's all show unity out here in front of the Vatican. They're not going to change because you're there. So you can spend your time fighting against, or you can fight for the alternatives. So when it comes to these companies and these organizations, I give them no attention. It's an unfortunate thing in our culture where that kind of virtue signaling is something that people are looking for. And the victims who there are real victims who don't ascribe to this, but those who ascribe to the victim mentality and who have seen it be culturally trendy to scream loudly that I have been a victim, they're the ones that are going to point their attention to these woke companies that are trying to get their attention. I just pay them no mind. It's sad. It's unfortunate. I'm going to focus my attention on doing the right thing with the people that are doing the right thing. And that's what I wish more people would do. That's how we change it.
Wow. That's a good word. Matt, I'm so grateful. I will link to every single way to learn more about all of these organizations, the school, the dads, the mentorship program. Is there anything that you would like to share that I maybe haven't asked that you would like to end this podcast with? Specifically to parents, and my heart really is for parents to be, or parents of young children, because that's the realm that we're pouring into. That's our daughters and sons-in-law right now. And they're like, what on earth are we going to do? How do you want to leave them?
And that's who my heart is for as well. And the biggest thing I can tell you is stop living in fear. Be willing to challenge the status quo, because the world we live in now is not the same. And that's okay. We can be paralyzed by that, or we can decide to be invigorated by that and look to, okay, well, then what do we need to do for our kids and for the future generations? If we live in fear, we will be paralyzed. We will follow the status quo. And that's the last place we want to be. So if I can help you to get outside of that fear of, I can't home educate my kids, or I can't get outside of this job, or I can't question this in society. There's not a way to actually gain freedom and sovereignty. I promise you there is. You're just never going to be taught it in your natural, the schooling environments or anything like that. So I'm glad to help you get out of that fear. I promise it's doable. Well,
Matt, thank you. I'm grateful for this conversation, and I know it's going to be a blessing to many. And you're welcome back anytime there's something new, anytime you'd like to share. You have an open door here, and I know that I'll continue to keep in touch.
Grateful. I hope you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.